1 Kings chapter 17, beginning with verse 1. Notice the word of the Lord. And Elijah the Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilead said to Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years except at my word. And then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Get away from here, and turn eastward, and hide by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. And it will be that you shall drink from the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord, for he went and stayed by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. And ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. And it happened after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. I want to talk to you today from the subject, brook days and broke days. Brook days and broke days. Isn't it amazing? I think that anybody who has come from one place and arrived at another at some point in time can remember when they had it, and they can remember when they didn't. And there's a different spirit of generosity when you've got things and you can share it and you can bless folks and pay for stuff. And some days you just have to say, you know what, I ain't got it today. Everybody has been at a place where, you know, where you had to cover somebody else when it was your broke day and it was their broke day. And so life has a strange tension between brook days and broke days at times. And the Lord told Elijah the prophet to go down to the brook Cherith. Isn't it amazing that God will tell you to go someplace knowing that at a certain point in time it's going to dry up? And sometimes it can throw us into a quandary. We can have this conundrum, because you'll get into a situation and you feel like, God, I know you told me to come here. I know that you sent me here. And then he sends you there, and after a season, what used to be flowing and abundant and making you feel good, all of a sudden now it's as though the faucet has been turned all the way off and things are drying up. And it doesn't give you the joy that it used to. And you don't have the excitement that you used to. It's interesting that the name Cherith actually comes from the ancient Hebrew root, and it means to cut away or to cut up or to cut off. It's interesting. Cherith, God sent him to a place to cut some things away from Elijah's life. You can be holy and God still has to prune you. There are some things, and he will send you to a place to be able to cut some things away. This just showed that God had some cutting to do in the life of Elijah during this period in his life. And it was also a time to really take Elijah and bring him to a place of daily dependence upon God. Daily dependence. Because, you know, when you're in a season of drought, he had to trust God every single day to keep that brook flowing. Now, you know, you can go longer without food than you can without water. So God had to send him to a place where there was an abundance of water. He sent him to a place during a drought where there was water. He sent him by a brook. And he had to also accept food from ravens. And ravens, I don't know whether you realize it, but ravens are considered dirty birds. They are unclean birds. You know, the Old Testament gave a list in different places of the law explaining when something was clean and something was unclean. And of all of the clean animals, God told Noah to take 7 of a pair of each of those, but only 2 of the unclean. So with the ravens that made it on the ark, it was only 1 male raven and 1 female, and that was it, because they were dirty birds. They were dirty animals. And so they were limited. In Leviticus chapter 11, verse 13 through 19, you'll notice it says, These are the birds you are to detest and not eat, because they are detestable. The eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven. And he went on to list owls and different kinds of night birds, nocturnal animals that were considered to be dirty. But here he says any kind of raven, Any kind of raven, any kind of raven. Now here's what I want you to notice in verse 4 of this 17th chapter of 1 Kings. Notice he says, and it will be that you shall drink from the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. Everybody said there. He said, I've commanded the ravens to feed you there. There's a specific place that God has assigned these servants to take that bread and meat every morning and every night. Now, over the period of that drought, those ravens took Elijah the prophet 2,000 meals. Morning and evening, morning and evening, morning every day. Dirty birds bringing you stuff that you survive on. Morning and evening, morning and evening, morning and evening. And I want you to understand the emphasis on the word there. He says, because I've commanded the ravens to feed you there. Now, if God gives a command to ravens to feed there, they were going to drop it off at the brook no matter where Elijah was. Now, you see, can you imagine if you are waiting on God to bless you in one place, but He has designated the ones who are designed to carry your blessing in another place? And listen, it's a dirty bird too, because sometimes we don't always want certain kind of folks to bring us stuff. I remember I was in the cafeteria one day, and one of my high school teachers was in line in front of me. And she was ordering some stuff, and the little lady back there had a little attitude. And my teacher, she was snappy. And she said, honey, if you got a problem with it, she said, you can keep it. But isn't it interesting now, if you get hungry, I really don't care what kind of attitude you have. If I'm hungry, I ain't got time to go across town and find another place and stand in another line. I'm going to just deal with your attitude. I mean, you know, here's what I want you to understand is that sometimes God will use something dirty. It's not about the delivery person. It's about the one who sent it. And God is the source. He's the source. And sometimes He will use something dirty. Somebody who is not, the most reputable person. It may be somebody who doesn't have the most sterling character. And yet God can use a dirty bird to feed you in difficult times. It's amazing. And theoretically, I realized God could have fed Elijah anywhere. But God commanded these birds, these ravens, these blackbirds, to specifically go to the brook Cherith. Now, had he remained where he was, he would have missed 2,000 meals. Can you imagine what you may be missing if you're not to the place that God has commanded you to go? Because in that place called there, in that place there are your blessings. There is the place of your blessing. Can you imagine that when you get in trouble, it's because you were there? And you know where that there is too, because had you not been there, you never would have caught the disease. Had you not been there, you never would have been busted. Had you not been there, you never would have lost your wallet. Had you not been there, you never would have missed your meeting. Had you not been there. You know about what that place is, that there. People get in trouble. You get hurt. You get in perilous times when you are in a there that you've not been assigned to. But your resources of what God has designed to bless your life are in a place called there. Say there again. There. It's amazing. It's amazing. Elijah's provision wasn't where he was. It was where God told him to go. It wasn't where he was. It was where God told him to go. Now, this is profound when you really think about it, because you can be praying for something right here because you don't want to leave where you are to go to where God is. You know, there's some time that I have gone to places to minister that were dangerous places. And when I got there, I mean, I got to the airport and I saw the military guarding the airport. And down every street that we went, military folks lining the streets with machine guns. Every place that I went. We had to call the military in to protect the meeting where I was speaking. And here we've got hundreds of military men, militia men with machine guns, and I'm doing a meeting and got 5,000 men here in the meeting. And yet I realize that the safest place that I can be is there when God sent me. I would be safer to be there in that atmosphere than to be at home in my bed. I could be laying in my bed at home outside of the will of God when I didn't go there, and a tree could fall on my house and a branch could come down and impale my body. I could die in a place that I thought was safe, and yet God preserved me in a place where there was crime all around me. You see, when you are there, God has provided everything that you need in that place called there. And so God was really essentially saying to Elijah, you can go wherever you want to go, Elijah, but the address that I'm dropping your food off, it's the brook called Cherith. I know you may not want to go this place, but where I'm going to drop your provisions off is a place called there. I've commanded the ravens to feed you. They've been assigned to the brook Cherith. Now, you can go to the mountain, you can go to Mount Sinai, you can go to Mount Moriah, you can go to Mount Zion, you can go wherever you want to go, but the food is going to be delivered at the brook Cherith. That's where they have the built-in assignment. I've commanded them to take it there. So no matter where you are, Elijah, you will not get the provisions unless you are there, unless you're there, unless you're there. And some of you, you have the impression that God is just going to do something regardless of where you are. But there is something about the place called there. Maybe you're supposed to start a business. Maybe you're supposed to go back to school. Maybe you're supposed to make a job change. Maybe you're supposed to help somebody else fulfill a big vision. Maybe you're supposed to move to another city. Maybe you're supposed to go to Bible college. Maybe you're supposed to get married. Maybe you're supposed to start your family. Maybe you're supposed to write a book. Maybe you're supposed to run for political office. Maybe you're supposed to solve a problem that has frustrated you. Maybe you're supposed to create some cultural change. Maybe you're supposed to fight for social justice. And until you get there, you won't find his provisions. Now here's where we get the conundrum. We want God to do something, and we feel that God has told us to do something, but we want the stuff before we go there. The way that we do, we want to pack it and carry our stuff with us. We want to carry our meals ready to eat with us. We don't want to just go to war and just expect somebody to show up with it. We feel much more comfortable if we got all of our stuff with us. One of the most uncomfortable things is to fly somewhere. And I was over in Africa for a whole week. I checked my bags to fly from here to Africa, and I'm on the west coast of Africa, and I get and my bags are not there. I'm there, but my bags are not there. And the whole week, I'm waiting on my bag. I call the airport. They said, "This is Africa." I checked the next day as my bag come in. This is Africa. 2 days later, this is Africa. 3 days later, 4 days later, this is Africa. Well, after a week later, I go back to the airport to come back home. My bag is waiting there. Bag is clean. I get the bag, recheck it, and come on back home. It didn't get there until I was leaving. I was in the place, but my stuff wasn't there. And this is what frustrates us as children of God, if God sends you somewhere and your stuff is not there. But if he's commanded somebody to be able to sustain you there. There were times that he told him to carry a script and purse, and then there were other times that Jesus said, I want you to go, but don't carry a script, don't carry a purse, because I'm going to provide for you. And I want you to build a relationship with the people that need to take care of you in that place. And I've got to set up so that they pour into your life, so that they qualify themselves for the blessing that you need to impart into their life. And you don't ever know why. You don't ever know why. You don't ever know why. And let me just tell you, I had the time of my life while I was in Africa. I had the time of my life and didn't have a stitch on my clothes. But what I wore well. I was like Elijah. Elijah was a wild man with some loincloth on, just out doing some wild things. And you got to learn how to make. Now, I didn't have on loincloth. But I had the time of my life. I wasn't going to let what I didn't have spoil what I did. And there are certain things in your life that God has placed in your heart. He's given you dreams and vision, and you want to do it, but you're holding back because the provision is not there yet. The provision is not there yet. And you're saying, God, I can't do what you're asking me to do without first seeing the provision. I can't do it. And how do I know that all of things are going to work out for me? Let me tell you this. God gives you faith to get started. And He doesn't give you faith to finish until it's time to finish. And the most difficult part is in the middle, between starting faith and finishing faith. That's the real challenging part. It's where I've stepped out in this thing, and I don't have any guarantees. That's why if you're in business, there are no guarantees. You step out in this thing, and you got to make it work every day. Every day, every day, every day. You know, there were times when I grew up in the business world, and we'd go out on our routes, and they didn't leave us with a stipend. Our stipend were our products. And if we were going to pay for the hotel and be able to eat, you had to sell products to make your money to be able to pay for your daily stipend. And guess what? If we didn't sell, we couldn't sleep, and we couldn't eat. So we had a powerful selling motivation. And one of the things, it increased my passion. And this is what I realized. Facts tell the story, but passion sells the story. And it's interesting because I had a motivation to sell, because I knew if we didn't eat, we're not going to be able to pay for the hotel tonight. And we're not going to be able to buy any food. And you know, when you can't come home with an excuse to say, you know, ain't nobody buying out there. It's different. It is totally different when you got to eat. And you go to that place called there. And the principle here that we're finding in 1 Kings 17 is that God is sending the provisions for your needs, not where you are, but where He told you to go. He sends the provisions not where you are, but where He told you to go. The question is, are you there? Are you there? That's the magic question. Are you there? Touch your neighbor, ask him, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And some of you aren't experiencing supernatural provision because you're not there. You're not in that place. You want God to give you everything up front. There's no faith. And God says, you know, go there. There is a place called there for you. There is a place called there for you. And listen to me, it's not always necessarily a location. You may not have to even change where you live. Sometimes your there might be an attitude shift. Sometimes it may be a mindset shift. Are you there yet? Are you there? Because if you can't see it, you can't be it. Are you there yet? You cannot go any place in reality that you've not first visited in imagination. You got to see it in your mind's eye. You got to be able to taste it in your imagination before you ever experience it in reality. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? You know how kids are on the trip. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? In 5 minutes, are we there yet? And it's so difficult. It's like, I'll let you know when we get there. And you can, after you tell them that, they'll still ask you again, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? But when you get to that place called there, you will discover that God has assigned to the place there, to the place there. Wouldn't it be ridiculous for a husband and a wife to have this great discussion about how an embryo is going to be sustained in the womb? But all homeboy has to do is to get the seed there. Once he gets the seed there, God says, I got it from here. I got it, I got it. He lets the mama know, Mama, you don't even have to think about it. I got it. I will work this. I'll cause the cell division to start happening. You don't have to be good at math. And trust me, I know some girls that they can't count, but they done had babies. And he said, I'll split it and I'll start it. It may start off as a single cell and it's going from 2 to 4 and 4 to 8, 8 to 16 to 16 to 32 and 32 to 64 and 64 to 128, 128 to 256 and 256 to 512 and 512 to 1024. I mean, he said, I got that. I got it. You don't have to count it. I'm going to split it. I will multiply what I send in. If you get it there, I'll multiply it. If you get it there, I will multiply it. If you get it there, I will multiply it. If you just get the seed there, if you get the seed of the idea before the capital investors. Are you listening? Somebody's getting the word from God. I'm just telling you, if you can just get there, if you can just get me a meeting with so-and-so, if you can just get there, if I just ever get the opportunity, if you just let me get before them just one time, if I get an opportunity to be able to tell my story, to share my idea, to explain the vision, if I can just get there, if I can just get there, you will be surprised what God has for you in that place called there. There is some exciting stuff in the place called there. He's got something waiting for you. He's commanded even dirty birds to take your breakfast and your dinner to the place called there. He's not going to bring you to your 5-star accommodations. Because you know, when you just start now, if you can't afford to be all highfalutin. Because when you start something, you got to be the receptionist, the bookkeeper, the PR specialist. Now, if you need to put them on hold and transfer it and change your voice, do what you need to do. Because you're not there yet. One day when you get there, you'll be able to have somebody to say, hold on one moment, I will transfer you over to her right now. And when you're running your business and you don't have the money, it's like, hold on one moment, I will transfer you to accounts payable. And then you conveniently disconnect the call. But being there is not always just a physical location. Sometimes it's a place in your thinking. It's a place in your imagination. But when you do take that step of faith and just start following God, and doing what God tells you to do, there is a supernatural flow of divine provision, not only for finances, but also for peace and joy and blessing and anointing and influence and power and authority. And you can't even duplicate that with your human effort. And maybe you've got a word from God that you've not acted on yet, and you're waiting on God, and God is waiting on you. You're waiting on God, but God is waiting on you. He's waiting on you. And maybe you ought to be someplace other than where you are. Maybe it is that place called there. That place called there. And I believe that since God had already commanded the ravens to go there to the brook Cherith, that even if Elijah was not there, I believe that those meals would have just started piling up. At that place called there, they would have just been piling up. And that's antithetic to the nature of ravens to bring anybody food, because they knew that Elijah was not a raven. And birds don't normally feed humans. They take care of their own kind. These birds, you know, that's where we get the word ravenous. It's ravenous, ravenous. It's because the raven has a voracious appetite. They have a ravenous appetite. And anything with a ravenous appetite, now God takes the thing with a ravenous appetite and tells them to take what you really want to consume yourself and give it to somebody who's not even like you. You know that's God. Flesh will never, ever tell you to bless somebody else who doesn't look like you. And you got a ravenous appetite where it's just like, I need some stuff myself. But listen, I just want you to know that God does take care of the raven. You can look at the life of Elijah. When Elijah decided to obey God, when you look at the life of Elijah, he was a nobody before he had a word from God and acted on it. He was a nobody. Nobody knew Elijah until he acted on a word from God. And just acting on the word from God will put you on the platform that you need to be on. He just obeyed God. He didn't have a guarantee. He obeyed God. It was a word from God. And then boom, he stepped out in faith and he became a dominant figure in the nation. And he was blessed and miracles began to happen. A person was raised from the dead and revival broke out because Elijah got to the place called there. And he began to go into a place, because you got to be willing to die for what you believe. You got to be willing to die for it. You got to be willing to say, you know what, I'm putting my life on this thing. Everything I've got, I'm going for broke. Elijah was going for broke, but God sent him to a brook. And he went to a brook, and then the brook got broke. And so he enjoyed, about 3 years, he enjoyed brook days. And then all of a sudden, the brook dried up, and now he begins to experience broke days. Because when sometimes you don't have any guarantee that money is going to keep rolling in. I mean, your 401k, I hope that that's not where all of your faith is. I hope all of your faith is not in what an insurance policy can do, because they can go bust. They invest money too in the market that is unstable and unpredictable, and it's not really a guarantee. It still takes faith even to invest. It takes faith. But you see, there are so many wonderful things that can follow when you obey the word of the Lord, because everything that God has for you is waiting for you in a place called obedience. Everything that God has for you is waiting for you in a place called obedience. Everything that God has for you is waiting for you in a place called obedience. When you obey God, there's something that He has already provided. He's commanded things to be able to provide things for you. You may not understand at the current time why God would choose to separate you from the comforts of the life that you know, but God's got a plan. Because God will oftentimes call us to take unexpected turns in life. He'll call us to take unexpected turns in life. And listen, when man turns, it's called repentance. When man turns, it's called repentance. When God turns, it's called revelation. And when God and man turn, it's called revolution.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.